Hey everyone, Eran here with the second part of my mind trip tutorial for Artbeats.com. In this part, we'll finally discover the answer to one of the most intriguing mysteries of the humankind, which is, what's on a woman's mind? I'll try to answer this riddle with the help of few clips from Artbeats library based on the final outcome of part 1 of this tutorial. For those of you who can't remember what it was, here's a sneak peek of what we end up with last time. Now we're going to discover what's waiting for us at the other side of this eye tunnel. So I'm a dreaming man, just like Neil Young. So my guess is that if you'll dive deep, very deep into a woman's soul, you'll probably find some magical and romantic scene, just like in a fairy tale's story. So with that in mind, I've searched the Artbeats library and quickly found this amazing clip, RP-FH136-53. A time-lapse movie of a mist floating across a castle in Germany. This rubber ball clip was shot with the Red 1 camera, and it will be a great base for our vision shot of what happens inside this woman's mind. So I'll start by dragging this clip onto the Make New Comp icon to create a composition the same size and length. And now, as much as I like this shot in its basic form, I think that we can maybe improve it to create some dreamy look by adding a few extra notches here and there. As a first step, I'll add an adjustment layer, and to it I'll add two color corrections effects: levels and tritone. In the levels, I'll crush the input black and the input white to compress the levels a little bit, just to add some contrast to the frame. For the tritone effect, I'll choose a mild blue color for the midtones and also add a simple fade-in animation using two keyframes just to blend it better with the clip I prepared earlier. So at the start of this shot, I'll set it to 0, and then maybe 2 seconds later, I'll raise it to 40%. Now I want to create some kind of a liquidy, dreamy effect for this shot, so we'll get a feeling that this is something which happens inside the mind, you know, imagination, huh? So for that, I'll plan to use another clip as a displacement source, meaning I'll take the pixel values from another clip to distort this shot. The clip I'm going to use for that is this one, UW234H, which is part of the Ultra Water 2 HD collection. An amazing shot of an ultra slow motion raindrops falling down. Okay, so I will drag this clip to the same comp just under my adjustment layer and turn off the eyeball for it, as we don't need to see it but only use its pixels data. Next, I'll create another adjustment layer, and to it I'll add the caustics effect, which you can find under the simulation category. This effect basically renders a simulation of water using a water surface as a displacement layer. So under the water section here, let's define the UW234H as our source. And also I will set the surface opacity to 0, so it won't cast any additional color which is built into the effect itself. If there is a need, you can always play here until you find the amount you like, but honestly, this is all we need to do here, and it looks great just in order to get the dreamy liquid effect that we are after. Of course, the final effect is now too intense, and to me it just looks like a glass texture door, something along these lines. So we need to change the blending mode of this whole layer to overlay, and then maybe to reduce the opacity to say 70%. Playing through this clip, you can see now the unique effect we've managed to pull using this technique. Simple, but great. Exactly what I was aiming for. Okay, now to make this comp look even better, I'll add one of my all-time favorite clips from Artbeats, which is MA124. This HD clip is part of the Mayhem collection, and this shows us just pieces of white dust floating upward in the air. I just love this particular clip because it always helped me to bring elements tightly together. This is just create a great realistic mix due to the dust noise that we will add above everything. So I'll add it to my comp and then use the stretch option to slow it down. By the way, if you can't see this panel in your After Effects software, just right click here in this area and just choose it from this list. Anyway, now that I timed it to fit, I can change its blend mode to screen and create another preview for this section. As you see, this makes a lot of difference and helps to tie everything much nicer together. Just brilliant. And now we come to the last section where we take everything we've created and create our final composite. For that, I will create a new comp and name it Mind Trip. Size it to 1280 by 720 with the frame rate of 23.976 and a duration of 20 seconds. I'll drag the eyes transition clip from part 1 and also the vision comp that we just created to this final comp. The vision comp should start to blend in, I think, around 6 seconds and maybe 20 frames, so I'll drag it to this point of time. And the next step will be to create some interesting mix between those two layers. I'll start by adding few effects to the vision comp and then we'll take it from there. So I'll choose it and then apply the CC radial scale wipe and also the radial blur effect. These two effects should help us to create the feel that this vision image is created from the vortex below. So at the first frame of this layer, I'll set a keyframe for the completion of the radial scale wipe effect with a value of 100. Of course, we need to reverse the transition here, and then 20 frames later, I'll set the completion back to 0. It might also help to move the center of the transition to the left side of the screen just to match where the vortex center is right now. As for the radial blur, I'll start with a value of 100 at the start of the clip, set a keyframe here, and also remember to set the type to zoom. And then I think I will move 30 frames further in time and reset the amount back to 0. This will give the illusion that the image is just smearing from this vortex, very similar to the crash zoom effect if you know it. Another good idea will be to create a fast scaling animation to this layer as it settles in. So I'll select the layer, press S to see the scale properties, and let's crank it at the beginning to 150 and then move like 20 frames or so and set it to 67%, which should fit the comp we are in. I'll also select all the keyframes that I've created, and by hitting F9, I'll convert them to an easy ease keyframes. Let's take a short break now and look at what we've got so far just around the area of the transition. It looks very nice, but I'm not quite happy yet. I think we need some additional lightning just to help us going from one state to the other. To do so, I'll create a new adjustment layer, and to this layer I'll add the glow effect and set few keyframes which will help us once again to mix the layers below. What we basically want to do here is to play with the glow threshold the glow radius and the glow intensity to create an interesting blend of highlights between the two clips. I'll begin by raising the glow threshold to 75% and also the glow radius I think to the same value. And let's now play with the glow intensity and fade it over time. So around 3 seconds, I'll set a keyframe for the intensity with a value of 0. Move forward to the start of the vision clip and then raise it to maybe 0.5. Let it stay like this for a few frames and maybe around 10 seconds in my timeline, I'll set it back to 0. On top of that, we should also animate the glow threshold around the area of the transition itself. So, few frames before the clip is visible, I'll stick a keyframe with the same value I've got, 75%. And then at the transition point, I'll lower it to around 15 or 10. You need to eyeball it. And then maybe raise it back again to 75% after the visuals have changed below. As always, I'm sharing my values here just that you can follow if you're using the same footage. When working with a different one, you need to play with these numbers and judge what looks best in your eyes. Anyhow, the deed is done and we can take a quick look of what we've accomplished. Well, now it looks much better, but we can definitely boost it even higher. What do you know? We are aspiring to be the best in our class. Oh yeah. So, especially for you, I'll happen to have a clip that will help us to put some magic into our shot. This is clip CC113. Which is a white cloud effect evolving from the center frame, encountering some invisible barrier, which just looks great. And I think it will work perfect as long as we are going to tweak it to fit our needs. So I'll start by double clicking on it while holding down the Alt key, which will open it in the footage window where we can start to work on it. First, I'll need to find a place I want to start to use this clip and create an in point. I think that this should be somewhere closer to the end of the clip, just before we see the dark hole that is created inside this cloud. We'll time this hole creation to the transition we are building. So after setting an in point, I will use this overlay edit button just to drop it to my timeline and then sync it to the start of the vision comp. So in first glimpse it appears to be too long and probably too slow as well. So let's press on the stretch number once again and stretch it to maybe 30%, which should play this clip 3 times faster. Next, I'll set this layer blend mode to screen. This will dismiss all the black pixels in this shot, leaving us only with the smoke cloud itself. This is wonderful, but we want to expose it in place and fade it out at the end of the clip. For that, I'll use an oval mask and animate it over time. So I'll start from nothing and then expand the boundary just to fill the whole clip. I'll also add plenty of feather, which will help to mix everything with the other layers that we have here. At the end of this clip, I'll also add 2 opacity keyframes just to fade it away at the end. And now let's take another look at all the elements as they are coming together. And I think we have a winner. This last clip from the Cloud Chamber HD collection really helps to sell the idea here and makes the scene looks quite magical and dreamy. Don't you agree? This is also brings us to the final stage of this promo. I'll return now to the project panel and take my pre-made text comp, drop it at 10 seconds in my final timeline here, and maybe change its blend mode to overlay so it will look a little bit more integrated to the colors that we have. And now I think it's a little bit mild, so I might also duplicate it. So just to give it a little bit more pronounced look. And I think that this is it. We are ready to see the full sequence from start to end. So there you have it. This is probably the answer to the question I raised before. Now we know what is going on inside this woman's brain. She's thinking of a magical and scary place in Germany. Or maybe in her mind? We'll never know, but it wasn't so hard to discover. Of course, if this is not the answer you are looking for, you can always switch the back image at our vision comp to anything you like. For example, you can use this clip, which was part of the free daily downloads at artbeats.com, and then you have a completely different story to tell. Whatever you do, do it with love. In my case, I think that I will switch back to the Magical Kingdom clip I used before. Because what can be better than a mystical kingdom far, far away in the cold, cold mountains? Nothing, I guess. Anyway, you can do whatever you like. This is the beauty of living in a democratic country. And this is also the beauty of this cool tutorial at artbeats.com. So until next time we'll meet, this is your personal mind reader, Eran Stern, hoping you learned something new today and also hoping to see you very soon. Take care, goodbye.